Silence of Terror is a complex story. It seems like a straightforward adaptation of any one of a number of World War II submarine movies on the surface, if you'll pardon the pun. One ship trying to outmaneuver another in a silent game of stealth. One captain trying to outwit another in a deadly game of war. Dive deeper into the story, however, and you'll see a story about prejudice and ignorance. Examine it even closer, and you'll see a story of the horrors of war and the futility of fighting for glory.
There's so much that has been taken for granted over these years that many young people watching television today assume that it's always been that way. But when Gene Roddenberry put Star Trek on television, it was a rare thing. It was groundbreaking. This was the first interracial cast in a successful television series ever.
Very well.
It changed the face of television. Now it's very commonplace, but then it simply was not.
Well, here's one thing you can be sure of, mister. Leave any bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge. Do I make myself clear?
You do, sir.
I'll never forget the story that Whoopi Goldberg told, which was why she wanted to be part of Star Trek. She said she was 9 years old, I think, and she turned on television and she saw this show, and this little 9-year-old girl with eyes big as saucers went screaming through the house saying, "Hurry, hurry, come and look, come and look. There's a black lady on television and she ain't no maid."
Picking up communication, sir. It's from their ship.
Pipe it in.
Sounds like code, sir.
I have a fix on it, Captain.
And that tells the story. That's the essence of where we were and where we are today. We've come a long way, baby. And we got a long way to go.
This episode marks the first appearance of one of the most prominent enemies of the Federation, the Romulans. It also marks the first Star Trek appearance of an actor who I would later grow to know and respect, the late Mark Leonard. Mark was a gracious gentleman and a very talented man who brought a great deal of substance and strength to any character he played, but particularly to the character he would become best known for and continue to play for nearly 30 years, Spock's father, Sarek. When Mark passed away in 1996, Star Trek truly lost a member of the family. When Star Trek, the series, came along, I had been acting in films and television for about 15 years. I had been involved in all the extremes of science fiction from very early on. For some reason or other, I was useful in science fiction. As an alien, often as an alien. And in fact, my first alien job was in 1951, 15 years before Star Trek, in a Republic serial called Zombies of the Stratosphere, which was kind of crude stuff. It was Saturday afternoon serial kind of stuff. Three of us came in a cigar-shaped spaceship from Mars, and we stole a pickup truck and some Colt 45s, and we were going to take over Earth. You know, fascinating. When this thing came along, it was my first crack at a long-running job, at a job that had potential to run longer than 2 weeks. And I had a family and to support, and I had been working at a lot of other work to support that family outside of acting. I'd done some teaching. I also drove some taxis for a while. The intent was to try to do good work and stay on the air.
Obviously, their weaponry is superior to ours, and they have a practical invisibility screen.
You're discussing tactics. Do you realize what this really comes down to? Millions and millions of lives hanging on what this vessel does next.
Or on what this vessel fails to do, Doctor.
Yes, well, gentlemen, the question still remains. Can we engage them with a reasonable possibility of victory?
Little by little, it became clear that maybe something else was going on, that it wasn't just a job, that there was an opportunity to do some meaningful television. And that became a very serious objective very quickly, because it became obvious that it wasn't just a matter of surviving, it was a matter of making a contribution.
And if the Romulans are an offshoot of my Vulcan blood, and I think this likely, then attack becomes even more imperative.
War is never imperative, Mr. Spock.
It is for them, Doctor. Vulcan, like Earth, had its aggressive, colonizing period. Savage, even by Earth standards. And if the Romulans retain this martial philosophy, then weakness is something we dare not show.
But this was the first time in my memory that we were dealing with very current issues metaphorically. We were able to take very current issues that we were dealing with as a civilization at the time and translate them into a 23rd century story.
Do we violate the treaty, Captain?
They did, Doctor.
Once inside, they can claim we did. A setup. They want war, we furnish the provocation.
We're still on our side, Captain.
We became, I think, for a lot of people, a very, very meaningful series to watch, to see what comment we would make on a particular subject. In 1960, John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev played a dangerous game of chicken in what would later become known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. One can almost hear the echo of that conflict in Balance of Terror. Fortunately, the Cuban Missile Crisis ended peacefully. In the end, the Romulan commander states that under different circumstances, he and Kirk could have called each other friend, which is, of course, the irony of any war. We are not so different, despite our differences.